Greetings from Tokyo. My name is Daisuke Beppu. How are you doing today? I'd like to give some more comments, if I may, about some more films that I think should be included in the Criterion collection. I made a video a few days back regarding some of the titles that I thought should be in the Criterion collection, but that currently are not. And I received a lot of very interesting responses from viewers like you. If you're interested, just take a look at that video and scroll down to the comments section. A lot of really interesting responses and suggestions, and people agreeing with what I had said in that video, people disagreeing with what I had said in that video, and everything in between. And it was really nice for me to read. Even the ones that I read that were disagreeing with some of my choices, I perfectly understand where those people are coming from, and I thought that the people who were disagreeing with me had some really nice arguments that were really well said, very respectful, quite persuasive in many respects, I must say. So it was well done. Thank you very much. Now, one of these days, I do want to address some of those suggestions, maybe in a proper viewer response video, because some of them I think are really, they really go to the heart of what I think is so important about a wonderful label like the Criterion Collection. But if you don't mind, maybe let me just take the opportunity now just to show you a few more titles that I think might be worthy of Criterion Collection treatment and attention. Once again, this is my own list, and these are my own ideas. And as with everything in the discussion of film and cinema, things are subjective, and there could be agreements, there could be disagreements, and I don't mind either way. I'm perfectly happy to hear your comments, no matter where you fall in that spectrum, as it were. So that's perfectly fine. But again, this is just a very subjective list, and it's just prepared by me. And I don't want to seem like I am just randomly or frivolously making suggestions. I really believe that the titles that I've mentioned before and that I'm going to mention now, I really believe that they are worthy of Criterion treatment. So without further ado, let me show you some of these other titles. Well, let me just start with this one. Here we go. Yeah. So, the Beatles is a band, or it was a band, a rock band from the United Kingdom, and they were very famous in the 60s, and even after they disbanded in 1970, they still carried on with their popularity, and to this day they're extremely popular. Probably one of, if not the most famous band in modern rock history. And so the Criterion Collection currently has a Beatles film, which is A Hard Day's Night. And that is a really nice release, by the way. I really recommend it if you haven't seen it or if you don't own it. The Beatles also made this particular film, which is a very interesting one. It's called Magical Mystery Tour. Now, Magical Mystery Tour is also a name of one of the Beatles albums. So this was a film that is has a little story, and as the story progresses, the Beatles sing the songs that are on the album. So it's a nice little mini adventure of a film, and I'm sure Beatles fans know exactly what I'm talking about with Magical Mystery Tour. It would be really interesting to see this film included in the Criterion Collection in some capacity. Now, some people might say it's a slight film, and that's due to perhaps both its content and its length, and I can perfectly see where that's coming from. So maybe you might be more welcome to see it maybe as a supplement to a release of, let's say, the Beatles film Help. Now, the film Help hasn't been released on a Criterion DVD or Blu-ray, but it does have a Criterion connection, as some of you may know, because it was a Criterion Laserdisc back in the day. So this is the CLV release, so it's a single disc, and here is the AV release of Help. So these are the Criterion Laserdiscs of Help. So since the Criterion collection has Laserdiscs, and many of the Laserdisc titles, not all, but many of them have been upgraded or reintroduced into the collection as DVDs or Blu-rays, this might be a really nice candidate for the similar kind of treatment. And it wouldn't be nice to have Help as a new Blu-ray with, say, Magical Mystery Tour as one of its supplements, and also, might I suggest, maybe adding another documentary if you can fit it in. For example, maybe the first US visit, which might be a very interesting touch. Anyway, there's Help, which would be a nice complement to the film A Hard Day's Night, which is already in the collection. And it's a kind of a zany, nutty film, really showcasing the Beatles, again, at the height of their sort of early, maybe their first phase of Beatlemania. And again, Magical Mystery Tour, which is another representative phase in the history of the Beatles. So, yes, again, Help and Magical Mystery Tour, and maybe some other supplements for your consideration. Oh, and I should also say, wouldn't it be great to have Let It Be? Let It Be would be a great title to have in the Criterion Collection. Now, I have Let It Be on a Laserdisc, but I don't want to show it now because the Laserdisc, I don't have a cover for it. I just had the disc, and it's not really in the best of condition. But wouldn't that be so nice to have Let It Be as well in a really glorious release? I'm not sure if it will ever happen because I don't know, the release of that film in any kind of official way is probably never going to happen, at least in my lifetime, I think. But anyway, for your consideration, Let It Be and Help and Magical Mystery Tour, etc. from the Beatles. Next, I got a lot of suggestions from many different people at my last video regarding Martin Scorsese films, and I completely agree with those suggestions. For example, having Goodfellas in the collection, or having Casino, or maybe other films, maybe Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore, Mean Streets, Taxi Driver. I mean, Taxi Driver was a Laserdisc. Raging Bull, that was also a Laserdisc. After Hours, of course. The Color of Money, even. And the list obviously will go on as long as you know, and the list is as long as Scorsese's filmography itself, of course. But maybe I would suggest also going back to the roots. So maybe we can start with this one. So this would be a nice one. So Who's That Knocking at My Door? And this might seem to be a minor film. And if that's the case, then perhaps I might suggest coupling it with something like this, which is 3 by Scorsese. And these are a number of short films that were made by Scorsese very early on in his career. So the films included on this particular Laserdisc are Italian American, The Big Shave, and American Boy. Now, this release is a Voyager Laserdisc, which, as some of you may know, is related to or is associated with the Criterion Collection. And so therefore, this 3 by Scorsese release does have a Criterion connection already. So it would be really interesting to see the Criterion collection possibly upgrading this or reintroducing this into the current collection. And wouldn't it be an interesting combination to see this maybe as a set of supplements to a release of Who's That Knocking? That would be quite an interesting release indeed, if you ask me. Again, more representation of Scorsese would be great. We just saw The Age of Innocence come to the collection. We already have The Last Temptation of Christ, which was a DVD, and now it's a Blu-ray, and also it was a Laserdisc back in the day, if you recall. So, again, more Scorsese would be really appreciated, I'm sure, not just by me, but by many other fans of his cinema, for your consideration. Next, I didn't have a chance to show this one during my last video. I had it, but I didn't find it in time for that last video. But let me just show it to you very quickly. So David Lynch is a filmmaker that I'm very, very fond of, as some of you may already know. And a lot of you already mentioned some great titles from David Lynch. Dune, I totally agree with that. Also, The Elephant Man. I'd love to see The Elephant Man on a great Blu-ray by Criterion. That would be so wonderful. But I think Lost Highway would be a great one. And I must insist that if Lost Highway is to be released, please include DUMBLAND. Please. This is the Japanese Blu-ray, by the way, that I have. And this is really nice because if you open it, you can see Lost Highway in there. And, in fact, you can see a disc, which is DUMBLAND. Wonderful. This is a DVD, actually, of DUMBLAND. So this would be so great. It would be so great to have DUMBLAND in the collection in whatever form, and if it is going to be in the collection, it's probably going to be as a supplement. It's probably too much wishful thinking on my part to ask for DUMBLAND as its own title, but you never know. Anyway, this is just the Japanese Blu-ray of Lost Highway, which has DUMBLAND. So there is a precedent for the release of Lost Highway with DUMBLAND as a supplement. So Criterion Collection for your consideration. So next is this. As some of you know, the Criterion Collection does have a fairly respectable selection of Stanley Kubrick films. And those films that are currently in the collection as of today are The Killing, which also includes Killer's Kiss, right? And also Paths of Glory, and also Dr. Strangelove, and also Barry Lyndon. So those are really core films from the Kubrick canon. Laserdiscs also existed, as you know. So there was a Laserdisc of 2001 back in the day, and of course I'd love to see 2001 into the collection. That would just be a phenomenal release. Again, wishful thinking on my part perhaps, but who knows? It would be really nice to see 2001. It would be nice to see all of his films in the Criterion Collection. So that includes... Oh, I'm sorry. Also, there's Spartacus currently in the collection. I neglected to say that. I apologize. So there's Spartacus, which is a DVD in the collection. And also it was a Laserdisc back in the day, a Criterion Collection Laserdisc. But as I was saying before, it would be nice to see his other films. Eyes Wide Shut would be wonderful. The Shining would be wonderful. Full Metal Jacket would be wonderful. Fear and Desire, that too would be very wonderful, I think. But I don't know. Wouldn't it be great to see Lolita? This is the Criterion Collection Laserdisc, so there is a precedent for Lolita and a connection between this film and the Criterion Collection. So it would be really nice, I think, to see this back into the collection, as it were. This is really great. This is one of the first Laserdiscs that I got, by the way, when I was really determined. When I was determined to get all of the Criterion Collection Laserdiscs. This is one of the first ones that I was able to get my hands on. It's not the first Laserdisc I ever got, but it's the one that I got after I made the decision to collect all of them. So this has a special place in my heart as far as my collector's heart is concerned. Lolita for your consideration. Really quickly, I mentioned before in the last video, I mentioned the film, here we go, The Emperor's Naked Army Marches On, and this is a film by Kazuo Hara, and I really stand by that comment, and I would love to see this film into the Criterion Collection. However, I should also add that he does have a number of other films in his filmography, which are very interesting. So let me just show you what they are, or some of them are now. So there is this one, which is Goodbye CP, and there is this one, A Dedicated Life. Really interesting film. But I think the one that is the most perhaps important, or one that is quite, for me anyway, and for a lot of people I know, perhaps his most memorable film in many respects is this one. So Extreme Private Eros Love Song, 1974. Yes, as you know, this is again my endorsement for the notion of having this film into the Criterion Collection, because it is an example of very unique and personal documentary filmmaking, and it at its core, it's just it's this idea of one-on-one with a subject, with this person, and it's so intimate and raw in many ways. Some people might find those very shocking. I personally find it quite illuminating and just yes, jaw-dropping. Some of the stuff that we find out just jaw-dropping. So anyway, for your consideration, more Kazuo Hara films. Next, Jacques Rivette. Now, Jacques Rivette has received a little bit of maybe a renaissance, maybe starting from a few years back. As some of you know, the Jacques Rivette films received some attention in the Criterion Collection, also in Eureka Masters of Cinema, and also by Arrow, as well as BFI. And I know this has been released subsequently in a nice Blu-ray, which I don't have yet. But there's Celine and Julie Go Boating. So this is the DVD, the old DVD. And I think it just would be nice, really nice to see this film into the Criterion Collection. You know, Jacques Rivette is in many ways quite a remarkable and bold filmmaker. And so yeah, and I would say that this is probably, this is probably this is probably the one that I go to the most. It's either this or Out One. But Out One, wouldn't that be great in the Criterion Collection? I don't think it will happen, because Out One has already been covered more or less by Arrow, and I believe also Out One has been released both in region B and in region A regions, so I don't think it'll be available in the Criterion Collection. But anyway, that's just to say that Jacques Rivette films would be nice, including this one, Celine and Julie Go Boating. The Criterion Collection released a wonderful box called the Zatoichi box set, and these were all the Zatoichi films that were made by, or that were starring Shintaro Katsu as Zatoichi. And actually, let me just say that the statement that I just said is incorrect, because it didn't include one film that was made with Shintaro Katsu as Zatoichi, and it doesn't include the TV series as well. So my endorsement for more Zatoichi films is probably going to mean, hopefully, I don't know if it'll ever happen, but it would be nice to see maybe the TV series of Zatoichi. At least some episodes would be really interesting. And also maybe this one as well, which is the Zatoichi film that was directed by Shintaro Katsu, and it was released in, I believe, 1989. So this is a and this stars Katsu, so you can count it as being a continuation of that timeline of Zatoichi films that we see in the box set that already exists in Criterion. So yeah, I'm not sure if this is available in the United States and Europe. This happens to be a Laserdisc, which is a Japanese Laserdisc. I'm not going to flip it around because actually the back has a picture, which is a shot of the final scene of Zatoichi, so I don't want to flip it around lest I spoil it for any of you who haven't seen the film. It's a really bonkers film, quite violent, and the plot is, I think, all over the place. But it's, again, if for anything, it would be nice to have in the Criterion collection for the sake of completeness with respect to the Zatoichi films that currently exist. Also, it is actually, you know, I described it as being all over the place, but it's a really entertaining film. It's an entertaining action film. It's an entertaining samurai film, and so we know that there are many other films in the Criterion collection that are entertaining samurai romps, and this would certainly be up there among the best of those. So that, I think, is reason enough to count this as being Criterion collection worthy. Anyway, Zatoichi, the 1989 film directed by Shintaro Katsu, for your consideration. Speaking of Zatoichi, as some of you may know, the film Zatoichi was also made by the filmmaker Takeshi Kitano. He made his own Zatoichi film, which I think is a really interesting one. It would be really nice perhaps to see that film as well in the Criterion collection. Oh, wouldn't that be interesting to see Kitano's Zatoichi together with Katsu's Zatoichi, maybe as a double bill, double feature release? That might be interesting. But let me continue that discussion by talking specifically about Kitano, and it would be interesting to see more Kitano films in the Criterion collection. He is a Japanese film director, and he is a very interesting television personality as well. He's very popular in Japan even now as a comedian and also as a commentator and as an actor and obviously now as a director. Rolling Thunder Pictures had a very short lifespan with respect to its releases on Laserdisc back in the day, but it does have a connection with Voyager and therefore with the Criterion collection. So Sonatine, which was released under that label, does have therefore that connection to the Criterion collection. So it would be really nice perhaps to see, for example, Sonatine in the current Criterion collection. This is a real wonderful example of Kitano's style, and it is a very it's emblematic of those kinds of stories he likes to tell, which are usually focusing on Japanese gangsters and flashes of violence and the idea of quiet solitude and contemplation of life and one's purpose. So it's very themes of existentialism, etc. It's really he's really a fascinating filmmaker. Sonatine is just one example of a film that I really admire by him. Other films that I think are really worthy of Criterion treatment would be films perhaps like Fireworks, Hanabi. Even the recent films he does, the outrage films, outrage, oh gosh, those outrage films are fantastic. Those are like, those films are to me just great modern day Japanese Yakuza gangster films. It's so complex and wild and unexpected. Oh, those would be really great to have in the Criterion collection, the outrage films, plus many others by Kitano, but again, for your consideration, Kitano, and what a worthy nominee and representation of his work to have Sonatine. I'm not sure how much attention has been given to this filmmaker in terms of Blu-ray releases, I know there have been some DVD releases that have been quite good. and Artificial Eye has done a pretty good job in releasing some of them, but again, maybe a nice Criterion Collection treatment release of a film or more than one film by this filmmaker. Yes, so this is the filmmaker Theo Angelopoulos. And Theo Angelopoulos, I think, has a really wonderful output. Probably the one that is the most famous of his films is this one, which is just a fantastic film, The Traveling Players. If you haven't seen The Traveling Players, you should make it a point to try to get this. And I highly recommend it because it is just a stunning film. Wouldn't it be great to see films by Theo Angelopoulos in the collection? And The Traveling Players, if The Traveling Players were ever to come to the Criterion Collection, my goodness, I think I would just be overjoyed, just over the moon. I would be so happy if that happened. Anyway, just for your consideration. Next, really quickly, I'm not sure how worthwhile my mentioning of this film is, because I have heard rumors, at least through my interactions on Facebook and what people have been starting to talk about on Facebook, but it seems to me that the likelihood of this next film coming to the Criterion Collection is getting stronger and stronger by the day, and if so, that's great. In the meantime, let me just point it out really quickly, which is Visconti's Death in Venice. Luchino Visconti's Death in Venice. This happens to be my Japanese DVD. It's nothing too spectacular in terms of a release, but it is quite a stunning film. It's a lovely film. It is a dark film in many ways. It is a fair adaptation of the novella by Thomas Mann, but it is its own film because there are subtle yet distinct and significant differences between the original novella and the adaptation of that story by Visconti. So it's yes, it is a great simple, quiet, profoundly moving and very disturbing film. It would be so wonderful to have this in the Criterion Collection. I think Visconti is getting a little bit of I'm not sure if renaissance is the right word, but there have been a lot of recent releases on really nice Blu-rays of Visconti films. For example, Arrow's release of Ludwig, and also many releases, or not many, but some releases on Masters of Cinema, so Conversation Piece, also Rocco and His Brothers. So it would be a nice thing to see Death in Venice also, perhaps as a Criterion Collection release, but who knows. Again, hopefully the rumors are true and Death in Venice will actually indeed be released into the Criterion Collection. Fingers crossed. I mentioned Sidney Lumet and Sean Connery when I was talking about a film called The Anderson Tapes, which was released by Indicator from the United Kingdom. And I think that Sidney Lumet and Sean Connery, that pairing of a director and actor together is one of the great director-actor pairings, I think, in modern cinematic history. It is really quite compelling, the films that those gentlemen made together. Included in that bunch of films that they made together is this one, and I love Agatha Christie very much. I love her stories. I've read all of them. In the other room, I have all of her books on my shelf, and they're these nice facsimile releases. So they're not authentic first editions, but they are fakes of first edition. I'm not saying fakes. They are facsimile releases of the first editions that were released by HarperCollins starting maybe several years ago, and I collected all of those. So I'm a big fan of Agatha Christie novels, and I love all the TV shows, the Poirot series with David Suchet as Poirot. I love the old British BBC series of Miss Marple starring Joan Hickson as Miss Marple. I love the Tommy and Tuppence series with James Warwick and Francisca Annis as Tommy and Tuppence. Partners in Crime, and also the Tommy and Tuppence short stories that were turned into a short TV series. That's a wonderful series, by the way. And I also love Peter Ustinov's version of Poirot in films like Death on the Nile and Evil Under the Sun, and even Appointment with Death and 13 at Dinner and 3-Act Tragedy. Gosh, I love this, but probably my favorite of the whole bunch is the film by Sidney Lumet, starring Sean Connery in a supporting role. But this does count as one of the Sidney Lumet-Sean Connery pairings that I really love, and that's Murder on the Orient Express. I like the remake, but I love this film. This film just gets it right. It gets it right so well. It gets that balance between the luxury and fun of the of the times versus the sort of the darkness of the mystery. It just gets the balance perfectly, and so I would recommend this to be in the Criterion Collection. It would be nice to have at least one film that's an Agatha Christie mystery that is that would be representative of those types of mysteries. I don't think there's a better candidate for such a representation than this film for your consideration. I'm not sure what the status is of this film at the moment. I think it's out of print, but I could be mistaken, so please let me know what the status of this particular film is and its availability as of today, which is the beginning of August 2018. Freaks? Yes. This is perhaps, this is gotta be one of my favorite horror films of all time. This is one of my favorite films of all time, Freaks, and it's one of my favorite films because it is so disturbing. It is so disturbing in the way that it depicts the certain characters of the film. It is incredibly chilling, and the way that it goes about its business. I'm getting freaked out just listening. I'm just trying to, thinking about it right now, actually. It would be fantastic, so fantastic to see this in the Criterion Collection. I don't know how possible that is, but if it were, and if it included the great commentary by David J. Scull, which is included on this DVD as well as any other new commentaries, I would just be so thrilled. But anyway, Freaks, for your consideration. The filmmaker Edward Yang, the late filmmaker the filmmaker Edward Yang made some wonderful films when he was still alive, and some of them are included in the Criterion Collection already. Taipei Story, E, and the magnificent A Brighter Summer Day. And A Brighter Summer Day is my favorite film in the Criterion Collection. It's magnificent work. And so my love and admiration for Edward Yang films will kind of compel me to suggest some more Edward Yang films into the collection. There are a number of films that are currently not available, so it would be nice to see, for example, The Terrorizers. So this is the Japanese Blu-ray that I have of this film. So The Terrorizers would be an interesting one. There's also this one, which I just got. It's just quite difficult to get, but I was very happy to get this. This is also a Japanese DVD, but unfortunately now it's out of print. Right. So the Japanese title of this is Eduardo Yan no Renai Jidai. So this is the film that's the title of which is a Confucian Confusion. So a Confucian Confusion. So this is a really this would be a really interesting one to get in the Criterion Collection. Indeed. Again, I'm not sure of the possibilities of that happening. Probably never, but it's, again, Edward Yang is a filmmaker that deserves all the attention he gets because his works are just stunning. Brighter Summer Day is stunning. E is stunning. Taipei Story is stunning. So what better to have more of his films in the Criterion collection? So there are other films, of course, Mahjong, etc. But just a couple examples, Terrorizers and A Confucian Confusion, for your consideration. Yes, so I think let me just stop there. Again, I understand that there are more films out there that I could have mentioned, but I just didn't. So I really apologize. I should have. I wish I had more time for these videos, but again, for every film that I mention, I think there are 100 more that I realize I could have mentioned but didn't. And after I finish editing the video and uploading it onto YouTube, I'm just kicking myself and regretting not including this or not including that. So I really apologize. I should have mentioned also other films that I didn't mention here. For example, there are some more Jean Eustache films that I would love, like for example, Mes Petites Amoureuses. I don't know if this will ever be released on Blu-ray, but fingers crossed. There's also the Death of Mr. Lazarescu, which would be really great to have. This is a fantastic film. There's also, let's see, I'm a big fan of film noir, so more film noir would be great. So for example, here's They Drive by Night. That would be an interesting one to have. I'm a big fan of this one. I'm not sure, I don't think I'm going to get a lot of support for these next couple, but I might as well because I really believe in them. There's The Airport, and there's also Conan the Barbarian. And let's see. Oh yes, I really believe in this film, this series. But again, I'm not sure. I don't think I'm going to get a lot of support for this one as well. But Walking Tall trilogy. Oh yes, and what am I talking about? I forgot this. This is Beau Travail, of course. This should be in the Criterion collection. I think the fact that this is not in the Criterion collection, I think is it's akin to a crime. I think this is a really important film and just a fantastic film on all fronts. My goodness, there's not enough time in the day. If you have any suggestions or questions or comments, or you want to continue the discussion with me about these or other films that you think should be included in the Criterion collection, please let me know. I'm very happy to continue the conversation with you. You can leave a comment below in the comment section, or you can try to reach me. I'm on Facebook, so you can try to find my name and you can reach me and send me a private message, and I'd be very happy to respond. I think a number of viewers have done that to me already, and I've been very flattered, and I've been enjoying the conversations I've been having with a number of people. It's been really great. You guys really know so much. I am so impressed every time I feel like I say something and you're just like, no, you're wrong, it should be this or something. I feel so fortunate to be educated by all of you on a daily basis. So I'm so happy. So if you want to help me get more educated, or you want to converse with me anytime, again, YouTube, leave a comment and I'll do my best to respond, or you can try to reach me directly via Facebook. Anyway, that's it for now. So let me end it there, and let me say to you, thank you very much for watching, and I really appreciate it because I know all of you are really busy with your daily lives. So to take the time out to watch this video, even if it's for a little bit, really, I really appreciate it from just from the bottom of my heart. I really appreciate it. It's really nice to get this video out there and share these thoughts with you, and hopefully get some more conversations going. With that in mind, let me leave it there. So thank you very much again, and have a great rest of your day. Cheers.